I had read the article again over the weekend and making notes on it, and then when I went back to it today, I thought, yeah, of course we're going to talk about that. And
but she's talking about such an elite slice of jobs, and Washington, and they're all crazy there. I mean,
Yeah.
So I think what I liked about our conversation was, if you still want to perform at a very high level but not go to New York or Washington, what does that look like in a place like Denver? And it's doable. It's more doable here.
Yeah, I think that's right. I agree. I don't know that there's ever going to be a balance when you are the right-hand person to the president, right? I mean, I just don't know that that's, so, and a lot of those jobs are like that, so I think that is, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. My youngest sister is a stay-at-home mom with little girls, and her career before she had her children was in sales with AT&T. So, in other words, she wasn't, a political type or anything like that, but this article really seemed to strike home for her. I mean, I think just considering what those trade-offs are.
Yeah. I also think one of the decisions Rick and I made was to move into a smaller house but closer to work, so we weren't commuting, and I know not everyone can do that. But there was one day in high school when my older son was trying to hang out with a group I wasn't really comfortable with, and Rick and I decided that we would both just drive by the house at unannounced times, just random spot checks. And I drove up one day, and he and these boys were about to walk into our house after school, and my son said, "See, I told you, they come by here all the time." And I think it kind of gave him cover. He was clearly uncomfortable letting them in, what they were going to do if they got in with no parents, I don't know. So part of it is just kind of taking a sense of what's happening and figuring out what strategy you can use to deal with it. And because we had moved in closer, we could drop by.
That is, and also that just goes back to the whole schedule, and having that ability, having that flexibility in a schedule to go do a drive-by or to take your kid to a doctor's appointment, and not feel this tremendous sense of guilt, because that was certainly one thing I always felt when I was in a corporate role. Was it wasn't that I couldn't do it. I actually had a very forgiving boss, but I always felt guilty. It was always this sense of I'm leaving.
You're shorting somebody.
Was the culture,
And so in past times, working mothers and stay-at-home mothers could have a little bit of a conflict in terms of what they each thought of the other's success.
That's
Do you have conversations like that?
I think that's really true, and I think I know many more stay-at-home moms now, and I just know they've all had interesting careers, and it's a matter of finding out what it was that they were doing, and I just sort of assume everybody's got a really interesting story, and they do. And I think that women have become much more understanding about those choices, because I think everybody's conflicted. I mean, my college roommate, who's a pediatrician in Annapolis, says, she jokes that she doesn't feel like she's doing any of it quite perfectly as well as she So I mean, everyone's always struggling with that. If you're working, you feel, I know she just like she should be at home, and if you're at home, you feel like, oh, I should be working. But I think that the more conversations about it, and the more role models we have for women who are doing either interesting things at home or have been at home and are able to then get back into the workforce, I think that helps.
Clearly we're too hard on ourselves.
Yeah, I think women, can be their own worst critics.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for being here this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.